Hello there. Thank you for choosing Citizen TV on this 22nd day of April 2025. My name is Sam Gituku, sitting in for Yvonne Okwara. And tonight on The Explainer, we'll be walking the journey, reflecting on the legacy of Pope Francis, who died yesterday at the age of 88. Helping us walk that journey, we'll be speaking to Father Dr. Marcel Uwineza, who is a Jesuit priest, but also the principal at the Hekima University College. You'll also be speaking to Charles Kanjama, who is a lawyer and, of course, the chairperson of the Kenya Christian Professionals Forum. They'll be here to talk about that journey. Remember the visit of Pope Francis back in 2015, several conversations that he gave, especially to the youth, and at the same time talking about the evils in the society, the questions of morality in the society. We'll be looking at that later on. But first, here are the top stories tonight.
Tukasikia sauti kubwa sana, very big bang. Kusikia nikasema tu ai, mawe imeanguka, watu wamekufa.
Death and destruction, 6 people killed, hundreds displaced as rains wreak havoc in Nairobi.
Mwenye ananiuliza ulikuwa hapa, na hata mliwauliza unataka kwenda hospitali, wakasema imani yao inatosha, na kama ni kifo Mungu amejua, hiyo ndio njia yao ya kwenda mbinguni.
Another shakahola in the making. 2 dead, 57 frail worshippers rescued from a mysterious church in Rongo.
We have given ourselves a period of 80 days to do this work.
Medihill Hospital on the spot. MPs launch a parallel probe over alleged organ trade at Medihill Hospital as kidney transplant is suspended at the facility. All set for Saturday. Tributes for Pope Francis continue to pour in from around the world as Vatican sets his burial for Saturday.
Good evening. We begin with the bulletin tonight with the tragic news of loss of lives following the heavy rains affecting the country. Here in Nairobi, 6 people died following effects of the heavy downpour on the night of Easter Monday. 3 of them, a mother and her 2 children, were killed when a boulder crashed their house in Mathare. The other 3 died in separate incidents across the city after being swept away by floods. More than 500 families have fled their homes in Mukuru kwa Ruben following flash floods that hit them in the night. Willie Lusige reports.
This boulder in the Mathare 4A informal settlement turned deadly as heavy overnight rains pounded. A nearby river overflowed, weakening the structure and causing the rock to collapse onto the houses opposite, killing a mother and her 2 children as they slept, crashing them along with their home.
Tukasikia sauti kubwa sana, very big bang. Kusikia nikasema tu ai, mawe imeanguka, watu wamekufa. Nikachomoka nje mbio kukuja kuokoa.
The woman had only recently moved to the area from Mombasa. Her husband, who had traveled, returned in the morning to the tragic news.
Tukapata mama amefinywa chini na watoto wawili. Hakukuwa na kichwa.
Local authorities have begun evicting other residents whose homes are at risk of flooding or being crushed by nearby rocks.
Si mara ya kwanza hii mawe kuwa. Lasia mwezi wa 4 nyakati mrowe ilijaa, bado liwa mama na mtoto.
Leta vingine tuende nyinyi.
The situation is equally dire in Mukuru kwa Ruben, where 1 person died after being swept away by floods. More than 500 residents have been displaced by the sudden flooding, left with nowhere to run.
Unga hakuna, malazi ilienda na maji, wana na pepe kitanda bure. Hakuna mattress, hakuna masufuria, kazi yangu ilienda mpaka majirani wote.
Sasa tukatoka na mtoto hadi tukaenda tukaogelea kwa maji, hadi manguo dilikuwa nazo. Mebaki tuna nguo moja.
Residents are criticizing the Nairobi County government for ignoring the recurring flood disasters in the area, a year after making several promises following deadly floods that caused massive destruction.
Gavana wa Nairobi Johnson Sakaja alikuja hapa last year mwezi wa 5 akuwa amesimama ile eneo na akaahidi watu kama sisi kuna mtu tunamlaumu ni gavana. sababu yeye ahadi zenye anaweka ni ahadi ambaye atimizi.
A bodaboda passenger was swept away by flood waters in Mukuru kwa Ruben, with the rider managing to escape. 2 more bodies were recovered from different parts of Nairobi after being swept away by floods. 1 person was found dead after drowning in the Ngong River at Likoni Bridge in South B. The second body was retrieved from flood waters along Jogoo Road. Police are urging Kenyans to exercise extreme caution during this long rain season. The perennial issue of drainage that has affected many areas within Nairobi County for several years has now been linked to failure by the government to implement measures to be able to curb flooding, especially during heavy rainfall seasons. Willie Lusige, Citizen TV, Mukuru kwa Ruben, in Nairobi.
Now, police in Migori County have recovered 2 bodies at St. Joseph Missions of Africa Church located at Kochola Village in Rongo Sub-County. 57 other people believed to be faithful of the church were rescued by the police in what is suspected to be indoctrination-driven habits. Police say the congregants are defiant about undergoing medical checks as they chanted and sang religious songs. Melita Oletenges reports.
On Monday night, police and intelligence officers raided the St. Joseph Missions of Africa Church in Kochola Village in Rongo, Migori County, after family reported that a relative's body was to be buried within the church compound. But what they uncovered was far more disturbing. 2 dead bodies, 1 body covered in a white robe and wrapped in a grey sheet, was found in a prayer room. It had facial injuries and foam coming from the mouth. The second was discovered during a wider search of the compound.
Kuna watu wawili ambao wamepoteza maisha, lakini chanzo cha kupoteza maisha hatuwezi kusema sahihi because there will be postmortem. So tutangojea mpaka postmortem ifanywe ndio tujue nini kimefanya wakapoteza maisha.
57 followers of the religious group were rescued looking frail and weak according to a police report, but they refused medical attention, chanting religious songs. Despite the police intervention, church members insisted they were fulfilling the final wishes of the deceased.
Unataka kwenda hospitali, wakasema imani yao inatosha, na kama ni kifo Mungu amejua, hiyo ndio njia yao ya kwenda mbinguni.
As for the visible wounds, the members claimed that one of the deceased persons had been suffering from a head injury but had refused medical assistance.
So even the police officers requested him to be taken to the hospital, but he did not accept. He refused. He said that he has strong faith, he will be okay, his Lord will heal him.
The church has since been closed to allow investigations, but the frail followers, 57 in total, remained defiant, choosing songs and prayer over medical care. The discovery has sparked comparisons to the Shakahola massacre, where more than 400 people died in the name of faith, but the church members deny any wrongdoing, claiming all deaths were reported to the authorities.
Huyu mwenye alikuwa amekufa, tukaenda tukaripoti, tukachukua death burial permit. Ni sisi ndio tulifanya hivyo. Kwa nini hatukumzika hivyo? Na huyu mwenye sasa amekufa baada ya kuwapiga. Sisi wenyewe ndio tumewapigia wale simu wakuje.
The bodies were moved to Rosewood Mortuary pending post-mortem examination to determine the cause of death. Melita Oletenges, Citizen TV.
Now, the National Assembly has launched an inquiry into the alleged illegal organ harvesting in the country following reports of suspicious kidney transplant activities at Medihill Group of Hospitals. Medihill has at the same time broken its silence on the matter, saying the operations are above board and are open to a second public audit. Victims of the alleged organ harvesting in Eldoret have complained of receiving threats from unknown people for sharing their plight with the media. And as Gatete Njeruge now reports.
Their ethical standards.
Barely a week after Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale appointed a committee to undertake a comprehensive audit of all kidney transplant services at the Medihill Group of Hospitals for the past 5 years, the National Assembly Health Committee has also launched a parallel probe. Through the committee chairperson Dr. James Nyikal, the MPs say their investigation will seek to assess the legal and ethical integrity of transplant processes at the hospital, inquire into alleged transplant tourism, and evaluate laws in place to gauge whether they are adequate to stop mischief.
committee has set itself as an inquiry committee, and we are going to do this. We have given ourselves a period of 80 days to do this work. And when we are in the process, it will be an open process.
But Medihill Group of Hospitals, which had remained mum over the allegation for over a week now, says they are ready for the scrutiny. Through its lawyers, Medihill says they have suspended kidney transplant services as directed by Health CS Aden Duale, and that they will prove that their operations are above board.
We are clean, our processes are clean. We have all the records to confirm that our processes are clean. We're asking the government, come and audit us. The patients are there, we have the records. The patients are willing to come and testify. The patients are willing to give their statements. It's there, it's clean.
The hospital remains confident that they will be vindicated at the end of the probe, despite the fact that the first report, which was allegedly doctored, indicated that there were suspicious activities of organ trade at the facility. But even before the Ministry of Health and Parliament begin their probe, victims who had come out to share their predicaments are already facing threats from unknown people who have been trailing them. The victims and their families claim that efforts to seek police help have been futile.
Nikitoka senta nikuja nyumbani, hao watu wananifuatilia, wananifuata nyuma. Maybe mwingine alikuwa mbele, wawili walikuwa nyuma. So mimi venye nilinotice kuna watu wananifuata, mimi nikaruka waya na nikaingia kwa kichaka.
Hata nimeshangaa kwa sababu nilipata mapolisi hapo wakanieleza hiyo ripoti yako yenye tumetuletea hatuwezi ngoje OCS ndio akuandikie OP ndio mrudi nyumbani.
Nimehama kwa nyumba yangu, nimeenda kuishi mahali ingine, na baada ya kusema hii maneno kuna watu wananifuata na kuwa scared.
The victims are now appealing for help from the government to assure them of their security, even as they pursue justice. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
And now to the continuing story of the passing of Pope Francis. The body of late Pope Francis will lie in state at the St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican from Wednesday until his funeral on Saturday morning. During this time, the faithful may pay their respects to the late pontiff. The Vatican set his funeral date for Saturday, even as the process of selecting a new pope began. Brenda Wanga reports that even in death, Pope Francis maintains the tenets of simplicity and humanity he lived in by his choice of burial site.
The death of Pope Francis has set in motion a series of centuries-old traditions observed in the wake of the death of the Bishop of Rome and the head of the Catholic Church. Hours after the announcement of his death, the Camerlengo, Kevin Farrell, oversaw the confirmation of the Pope's death. The Pope's official ring, the Fisherman's Ring, was destroyed and his official residence sealed off. His body was placed in a simple coffin and laid out in the chapel of his residence. The body will be moved to the St. Peter's Basilica on Wednesday, marking the beginning of the public viewing that will last 3 days before his funeral and burial on Saturday. And while the traditional aspects of that funeral will follow the laid-down traditions, the final resting place for the man who was fondly known as the People's Pope will be a break from that tradition. 2 years ago, Pope Francis wrote his will where he made clear where he wished to be buried. In that will, Pope Francis indicated that he sensed the twilight of his earthly life was approaching and he sought to express his final wishes on his burial place. In the will, he acknowledged the place of Mary, the mother of Jesus, in his life and ministry and how this influenced his choice of final resting place. And in honoring those wishes, the Pope will not be buried in the Vatican beneath St. Peter's Basilica, as is tradition with most of his predecessors. Instead, the Pope stated that he wished his earthly journey end precisely in the ancient Marian shrine at the Papal Basilica of Saint Major Mary, where he would always stop to pray at the beginning and end of every apostolic journey. He further picked out the precise location of his tomb in the side aisle between the Pauline Chapel and the Forza Chapel. And in the same manner he lived his life and served, the Pope has shunned the Vatican's traditional pomp surrounding the burial of a Pope. He will be interred in a cypress coffin that will not be encased in lead as is tradition. Instead, it will have a further wooden outer layer. His tomb in the ground will be simple, without particular ornamentation, and will bear only one inscription, his name, Franciscus. His will also disclosed that the cost of his burial will be borne by a benefactor. Tens of world leaders and thousands of faithful are expected to attend the Saturday funeral service. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV.
Now, Pope Francis' visit to Kenya in 2015 left memorable moments with his interactions with Catholic faithful in the country. During his visit, worshippers at St. Joseph the Worker Catholic Church in Kangemi got the rare opportunity to engage directly with the pontiff and receive his blessings, an encounter that left a lasting impression on the faithful. Ben Kirui spoke to some of the congregants as they narrated the moments they shared with the pontiff.
Much has changed at St. Joseph Catholic Church in Kangemi, Nairobi, since Pope Francis' historic visit in November 2015. But as news of his death on Easter Monday broke, memories of that momentous occasion came flooding back with grief and reflection.
Wakati alikuja tulifurahi sana. Kusikia amekufa, hata sasa tunahuzunika sana. Sababu tulikuwa tumesema sasa hata tunaita Kangemi Vatican. Sasa mwenye Vatican ndiye huyo ameaga dunia. Imetugusa sana sana sana.
Nearly a decade after the Pope's historic visit to this church, the moment still resonates deeply with its congregants. That visit was so significant that the church has since become affectionately referred to as the Vatican by the locals.
For the congregants of St. Joseph, the Pope's visit was more than symbolic. It was a deeply personal encounter.
Nilipata nafasi katika hii benchi ya tatu. Nilikuwa nimeketi hapa mwisho. Katika hii sehemu hapa ya nyuma, kwa imetengwa kwa ajili ya watoto wadogo. Kama vile tujuavyo, Pope yeye hupenda kubariki watoto. Na kukawa watoto wote wangechaguliwa kanisa hili.
Margaret Njoroge vividly remembers the day, especially the moment her young daughter received a blessing from the pontiff. Judith Njoroge was just 4 years old at the time. Now 13, she still believes that papal blessing left a lasting mark on her life.
All I was told was that my mom escorted me to the front. The Pope kept his hand to me and blessed me, and since that day I felt a bit special.
Kati nilipofika akitoka pale altarini kwenda kubariki wale, mimi namo nilipopata nafasi yangu ya kunyosha yule mtoto wangu ili aweze kupata baraka zake.
Parishioners here fondly recalled Pope Francis as a humble leader who was drawn to the poor and marginalized. His desire to connect with the community was evident in the instructions that were given by the handlers of the historic tour to receive a locally sourced gift and to meet specific individuals from the neighborhood. Church moderator Peter Magu, who was tasked with facilitating these wishes, says it was a testament to the Pope's down-to-earth nature.
As we neared the final week is when we were being told the Pope would like to meet with the children, okay? And then he also wants to meet with the old people. Oh, now let me tell you now where the complication is coming in. When the children are required here, at 4, obviously that child will not come on his or her own. You need a parent to come with them.
As the world mourns and funeral preparations begin, the St. Joseph community continues to honor the legacy of a Pope who walked among them and whose presence left an indelible imprint on their hearts. Ben Kirui, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
And back in the country, National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula led members of the National Assembly in mourning Pope Francis, terming the late pontiff a moral compass of our time, whose legacy of humility, justice and service transcended borders and faiths. Other MPs also eulogized the Pope as a servant leader who built bridges of unity that should be emulated by all. The House observed a moment of silence in memory of the late pontiff.
Let us be reminded by his example of the enduring power of servant leadership and the call to build bridges and not walls. May his soul rest in eternal peace. May the soul of Papa Francisco rest in eternal peace. Amen.
You can see this country, as the president works, he's trying to build bridges all over, Honorable Speaker, so that we can have a more cohesive nation, more cohesive Kenya in the spirit of Pope Francis.
When he came to Kenya, he did not just choose to go and stay in the high places, but he chose to go and worship in the most humble place, and that is Kangemi. And that is why we remember him for the great humility he had.
Mr. Speaker, I hope now that for the 267th election, it's my hope that we will get an African Pope. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I noticed he's a very good man who championed actually climate justice. And he was a man full of humility, love of humanity and the world reforms, Mr. Speaker.
Now, cardinals who will elect Pope Francis' successor have started arriving in Rome to set the date for the start of the conclave, the assembly of cardinals that will elect a new pontiff. The election, which will take place once Pope Francis is buried, is highly secretive, and nothing will be certain until white smoke billows from the Sistine Chapel to signify that the global church has a new leader. 135 cardinals from across the world are eligible to take part in the conclave. Seth Olale now looks at some of the possible candidates to succeed Francis.
Even as the more than 1.4 billion Roman Catholics around the world continue to mourn Pope Francis, speculation is building as to who among the 135 red-robed cardinals eligible to vote will succeed him. The cardinals, who have started trooping in at the Vatican after being summoned by the Dean of the College of the Cardinals, will set the election date for the start of the conclave, which must be less than 20 days after the Pope's death. As of April 21st, 2025, there was a total of 252 cardinals, 135 of them cardinal electors under 80 years, according to data published by the Vatican. 108 of the electors were appointed by Pope Francis, while 22 by his predecessor Benedict, and 5 by John Paul II. Europe leads with 53 cardinal electors, Asia 23, North America 20, Africa 18, South America 17, and Oceania 4. While Europe still has the largest share of cardinal electors, with about 39%, it is currently down from 53% in 2013, when Pope Francis became the first Latin American pontiff. In a break away from tradition, Pope Francis appointed more than 20 cardinals from countries that had never previously had a cardinal, nearly all of them from developing countries such as Rwanda, Cape Verde, Tonga, Myanmar, Mongolia, and South Sudan. The more cardinals that a pope names during his reign automatically increases the possibility that his successor will be someone who holds similar views on church and social issues. However, this is not always the case, as the cardinals may choose a person theologically dissimilar to his predecessor, but considered the best candidate for internal church reasons or for the historical times in which the election took place. Cardinal electors need a majority of 2/3 plus 1 to elect the new pope, so the voting can take several rounds spread over numerous days. Top candidates lined up to succeed Pope Francis include Vatican Secretary of State Pietro Parolin, the 70-year-old cardinal from Italy, 67-year-old Cardinal Luis Antonio, the leader of the Vatican Office for Evangelization from Philippines, the Archbishop of Bologna, Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, aged 69, from Italy, and Africa's Cardinal Peter Koduo Apia Taxon, aged 76, a Vatican official from Ghana. Seth Olale, Citizen TV.
All right, and we will be talking about some of those possibilities as well as remembering Pope Francis, his visit to the country, but also the work he has done for the last 12 years. My panelists are already here in studio. I'll be introducing them after this short break.
Rogue police officer on the run. A woman nursing serious injuries after being assaulted by a police officer in Narok.
Welcome back. You're still watching The Explainer, and tonight I have Father Dr. Marcel Uwineza, who's a Jesuit priest. He's the principal at the Hekima University College. Good evening.
Good evening.
And I have Charles Kanjamo, who is the lawyer and chair of the Kenya Christian Professionals Forum. Good evening, Charles.
Good evening, Sam.
And it's good to see you after a couple of months, also meeting for the first time the principal of Hekima University College. And we're here talking about the legacy of Pope Francis. But before we dive into that, maybe you can help us further understand the events that are unfolding at the Vatican and, of course, what we should be seeing in the lead up to the funeral on Saturday.
Thank you very much, first of all, to join in the global church and the global community in mourning our Holy Father, and also to wish happy Easter to everyone. And as the Pope dies, usually there are laid out procedures that should be followed. First of all, to confirm that he is passed on, and that was done yesterday by Cardinal Farrell, who is the Camerlengo, who really assures the administration when a pope dies. And that was done. Then there were the sealing of the apartments of the apostolic office and even Casa Marta, where Pope Francis lived. That was done. Then, of course, there were doctors that also confirmed that he died. And as you would recall, today also we had an announcement of what killed Pope Francis. He had a heart attack. And so we commend him to God. What follows next after this is that we have prayers for him. And this was also conducted by Cardinal Farrell at his residence where he dies. And this is going to happen for today, and then tomorrow he will be taken to the Basilica, St. Peter's Basilica, where there will be prayers conducted for the repose of his soul, but also now for the general public to have an occasion to bid him farewell. This will go on up to Saturday, when we will have the funeral mass for the eternal repose, for the repose of Pope Francis. He has made it very clear that he wanted to be buried at the Basilica of Mary Major, and which in a sense it breaks away from the tradition that was there. Pope Francis has been a pope of newness, and this is really in line with his personal devotion to the Virgin Mary. So what I wouldn't want to emphasize on breaking away from tradition, because that church too is a church of the Catholic Church. And he has had a personal devotion to Mary. At every juncture of his apostolic journey, he will go first of all to pray to Our Lady in Rome, so that she intercedes for him. And whenever he returned, he did the same. And so it's only fitting that the man who consistently had a devotion to Mary would want to be buried in a place close to her.
Right. Yeah. When you say sealing of the residence, what is the significance of that?
When a pope dies, certainly you want to ensure security that there are no intruders, and also to ensure security of the documents that have been there, so that you are assured that the future there will be no people who will be leaking documents that are supposed to be really taken care of with prudence. So the sealing here is part of the protocols that have been sealed.
That is locking.
Locking, exactly.
Will it ever be opened?
It will be opened when the new pope is elected.
Okay.
Yes.
Charles, for you, help us, because we've seen the stories of the congregants or Kenyans in St. Joseph's, the Waka Church in Kangemi, of what they remember. What for you will you remember Pope Francis for?
I'll remember Pope Francis first as a pope who preached about mercy and openness of the church to all. He emphasized mercy. We had a year of mercy where the focus was that the church is open to all sinners. And he also used to say that the pastor should smell like the flock. The shepherd should smell like the flock, should not keep away from the flock. I remember Pope Francis as a pope who was very emphatic about the need for forgiveness. He was very emphatic also about the need for charity. One of his encyclicals was called Amoris Laetitia, on the joy of love, and he was actually reflecting on various situations that face the church and the world, including in families. I also remember him for insisting that there are no perfect families, no perfect parents or perfect children, there are no perfect husbands or wives, and we are called to try to find God or to meet God through the imperfection of one another. So I think he was very down to earth. He kept insisting that he wanted to be with the people. He didn't want to stay away. He didn't want to live in the Apostolic Palace in the Vatican. Instead, he went to Santa Marta, where he was with other Christians there. He felt the need to be the flock. I also remember him for his visits to and interactions with people of other faiths.
Right.
First of all, other Christian communities and denominations, including the Anglican primate and other leaders of other Christian churches.
Right.
I remember him having interactions with the Jews, the leadership among the Jews in Rome and in other countries, with the senior Muslim leaders in Turkey and elsewhere. So he really emphasized ecumenism and interfaith dialogue and relations with others, the openness to the world. And I think that was amazing. Of course, there were also moments of apparent controversy when the Pope spoke about things to do with LGBT and so on. And
we'll talk about that because we have...
yeah, but that's part of what we remember the Pope with. And it was basically because of his emphasis on the pastoral dimension of the church. That the church is there to serve the wounded, the sick, and those who are journeying towards holiness.
All right, we'll have so much more time to really talk about that in defining what we cannot, but we can talk about the legacy of Pope Francis, especially if we look at what Kenya and the East African region will remember him about. So that conversation will be coming to you shortly from now. But first, a woman from Narusura, Narok South, is crying for justice after she was allegedly brutally assaulted by a police officer in a harrowing case of police brutality. The officer is said to have beaten and humiliated the woman, stripped her of her dignity in public. Citizen TV's Mary Mwoki brings you the story of yet another victim of police brutality and the rough terrain she endures in this search for justice.
On the morning of Friday, April 17th, in Narosura, Narok South, Jane Pariwat sets out to reclaim a motorcycle she had lawfully co-purchased with her now estranged husband. By her own admission, she sought to have the motorbike sold and the proceeds divided between her and her former husband, who allegedly left the family home and is currently living with his girlfriend. But what began as a simple errand spiraled into horror. Her husband and his girlfriend allegedly set the police against her. Sensing trouble, she went back home to avoid it, but trouble followed her. A police officer accosted her, allegedly tore her clothes, beat her and assaulted her.
Enda nyumbani, nikachukua mtungi nataka kuenda maji. Ndio hiyo askari nakimbisha mimi na mama ingine. Shika mimi, sasa venye nimeshika mimi akatoa mimi nguo akararua shati. Sasa kuangusha mimi chini. Akaendelea kuchapa mimi. Ndio hiyo mimi anapeleka mimi police station. Na akatoa mimi mpaka nguo ya ndani. Anapiga mimi hiyo rungu akaisha. Akainua mimi kukonga na nini na viatu.
Jane's children and neighbors intervened, rushing her to Narok Level 5 Hospital. Despite attempts to seek justice, justice remains elusive. The police have dismissed her case, threatened her to drop it, and frustrated hospital efforts to process a P3 form, a critical document for legal recourse.
Nimeona sitembei mama. Tamoka takataka. Wewe utaenda kwenu, si wewe nimesikia wewe ni Msamburu. Wacha nikumalize uende Msamburu. Na akaona kuna venye nitatembea. Ndio sasa watoto wangu akakuja akachukua mimi hapo. Akapeleka mimi hospitali na bili damu anatoka mafua kila mahali.
Niliweza kupata simu kutoka kwa anayesimamia matibabu katika Narok South akitueleza kwamba kuna mama ambaye ameweza kupitia dhulma kule Narusura, na juhudi zake za kuweza kuwasiliana na afisa wa polisi wa huko ili P3 iweze kujazwa na mama aweze kusaidiwa zikawa ni kama zilikuwa zinagonga mwamba.
This case lays bare the bitter irony of police brutality in Kenya. Officers sworn to protect, instead perpetuating criminal violence. The Independent Policing Oversight Authority has launched an investigation confirming Jane is receiving treatment and vowing accountability. But for many, this is too familiar. From the 2020 Nakuru case where officers dragged a woman behind a motorbike to countless others, excessive force by police persists, eroding public trust.
Ni chungu sana kuona kwamba mtu ambaye anastahili kulinda haki za wananchi yeye anadhulumu hizo haki. Kulingana na vile mama ameelezea vile huyo askari alimfanyia, ni kitendo ambacho kiko na uchungu mwingi sana. Tutachukua hili jukumu na tutahakikisha kwamba huyu mama hii kesi imeweza kufika kotini na haki yake imeweza pia kutimia.
Jane's story has ignited public fury, with social media amplifying her injuries and demands for justice. Advocates and citizens are calling for swift action to hold the officer accountable and reform a system that seemingly shields perpetrators. Mary Mwoki, Citizen TV.
Now, the Independent Policing Oversight Authority has launched an investigation into allegations of police brutality against social activist Bonafas Mongi involving officers attached to Kilimani Police Station. Activist Bonafas Mongi claims he was not only unlawfully arrested but also assaulted by police officers while in custody. Ode Francis reports.
A distress call led officers from Kilimani Police Station to an undisclosed joint where activist Bonafas Mongi was present. What followed, according to Bonafas Mongi and the CCTV, was a violent encounter. Mongi alleges that during the arrest, while handcuffed inside a police vehicle, an officer struck him on the ribs with a firearm.
When I got into the car, this particular officer called Robert Ouko hit me with a gun butt on my left side, like properly hit me. I thought even I'd broken my ribs.
The situation, according to Mongi, escalated further once he was booked into the police station.
And then when I was booked and I went to the cell, they followed me again to beat me up. That's when I ended up with a black eye. Now it has healed, but this eye could barely see.
When confronted with these allegations, the Mani OCPD refuted them, categorically denying any misconduct by his officers. However, he did urge IPOA to conduct a full and impartial investigation.
The following day in the morning, the OCS came, OCS Chibi came, saw my state. I was written in pain, my ears were shut, my lips were busted, I had like all manner of blood in my hands, my shirt had blood. Then I was taken to Nairobi Hospital.
Mwangi alleges he was taken to hospital under armed police escort. After his release, he later left the country, traveling to Brazil and Ghana. During his absence, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, ODPP, filed charges against him. Despite alleged assurances from the officers that the matter would not be escalated, Mwangi was charged in absentia with offensive conduct and assault at the Kibera Law Courts on April 7, 2025.
It's true we agreed with these officers that we're not going to do anything about this case. But however, for my own safety of mind, let me report to IPOA. So I called IPOA, I said I was assaulted, these are the pictures, these are the particulars, and I reported the matter and I said, however, don't investigate yet, because the police said we settled this matter out of court.
Mwangi has since submitted his official statement along with medical and visual evidence to IPOA. The oversight body has confirmed receipt and says investigations are underway.
We were then shocked to see that a victim of police brutality was then being brought to court to answer to charges, and some of the things we hear is that he's being charged with assault.
Basically, the charges are a cover-up. The arresting officers covering their crime of assaulting Boni, both at his offices and at the cells. What I'm wondering, what is the role of the OCS Kilimani in this cover-up?
And we still have the police handcuffs that they lost. They haven't even come for them.
The incident yet again raises questions over the conduct of law enforcement and the thin line between public order and abuse of power. Ode Francis, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Control of Budget Dr. Margaret Nyakango has raised the red flag of a growing financial indiscipline by county governments that she says is exposing taxpayers' money to pilferage. Dr. Nyakango says several counties have been diverting money approved to clear pending bills, but now to pay contractors of their choice without approval. Stephen Leto reports.
Despite push by the Office of the Controller of Budget to counties directing them to pay pending bills as their first charge, it has now emerged that counties have come up with a new trick. The Controller of Budget says some counties are now paying pending bills to contractors of their choice without approval, keeping the approved pending bills waiting. So far, a sample done by the Parliamentary Budget Office has revealed that 15,008 transactions of approved pending bills were altered by 15 counties, and instead an unapproved bills totaling to 13.2 billion shillings were paid.
Two of the suppliers who were in the initial list have been paid, but they have also introduced two others, who were never in the original list. So you will find then that B and C have been left out.
The report by the Public Accounts Committee of the Senate, chaired by Homa Bay Senator Moses Kajwang, shows that Kisumu County, for instance, has a total pending bills of 3 billion shillings, but during the period under review, transactions worth 2.6 billion shillings were diverted. The situation is sorry also for Kajiado County. Governor Joseph Ole Lenku's administration is staring at 2.3 billion shillings worth of pending bills, with the Auditor General report showing that the county engaged in fictitious expenditure and diverted 2.2 billion shillings and paid unapproved entities. Busia County on its books has 2.1 billion shillings worth of altered transactions under its pending bills. In Bomet County, 845 transactions were affected, with 2.1 billion shillings diverted to questionable payments. Mombasa Governor Abdul Samad Sharif Nasir's administration is also on the spot for diverting 921 million shillings to other use outside the approval of the Controller of Budget. The Margaret Nyakango-led office now says it wants the viewing rights into the county's treasury to ensure counties pay only what have been approved.
And for the last 5 years that I've been here, we have been asking that we be given viewing rights to the county accounts to see whom they have paid. But they won't. They just won't give me those rights. In fact, they threatened to go to court.
The Moses Kajwang-led Public Accounts Committee of the Senate wants investigating agencies to take up the matter and ensure those who have diverted public funds to own benefits are surcharged. Stephen Letos, Citizen TV.
Residents of Gituamba in Gatundu North are still in shock over how a Lone Ranger murder suspect managed to abduct girls, sexually assault them before killing them. The suspected serial killer, Samuel Waithaka Ng'ang'a, has since been arrested and arraigned over the murders. Franklin Wala reports.
On arrival at Gituamba in Gatundu North, we meet with Penina Wanjiku, a distraught mother to a young girl, Rosemary Njeri, who went missing on 15th March before her body was discovered 3 days later. In her lowest moment, the mother of three can't hold her tears as she narrates how her firstborn child met her untimely death in her prime life. She says Rosemary went missing moments after visiting her friend in Thika. Efforts to trace the young girl proved futile, only for the family to be notified that the girl's body was lying at General Cargo Mortuary in Thika.
Hugemjua alikuwa mweusi kabisa, saa ikasemekana ati ni juu. Suspectu aliuliwa kama Saturday. So alikuwa amekaa Saturday na Sunday na Monday. So mwili yake ilikuwa imefura.
The family was told Rosemary's body had been picked from a coffee plantation within Thika. An autopsy conducted on the body confirming their fears that the 20-year-old had been sexually assaulted before her killer took her life. The suspect also stole from her a mobile phone and other valuables.
Nakuja home, so nilikuwa napata kama amepika, amefanya kila kitu. Sasa mimi nikukuja. Na sasa nikikumbuka hiyo mambo, unaona sasa life imechange kabisa.
In yet another murder, the suspected serial killer, Samuel Waithaka Ng'ang'a, is said to have killed a 19-year-old girl who was his neighbor. The suspect is said to have ambushed Helen Wambui as she left a shopping center near her home. He forcefully took hostage of the girl and forced her into this bush, where he is said to have sexually assaulted Helen, strangled her to death and buried her body in the thicket. As Wambui's family was searching for her, they met the suspect as he left the crime scene unperturbed. A day later, the family took their search at the crime scene only to discover the unthinkable. Wambui's body was discovered here.
Ni kama kuna wengine alikuwa akitaka kuwaua. Kwa sababu siona pengine hakuwa amepanga kuua huyu Helen. Si kama ni mchana mwingine wamekutana na yeye, si angemchukua na mfanye hivyo. Sasa huyu Helen amezuia wasichana wa huku wa hii kijiji. Si ni kama amekufa juu yao. Sasa kwa sababu hiyo imekuwa mwisho, si wajue vile watafanya na hiyo mtu.
As the village grieved, investigators began probing details into the incidences. This would lead them to Ngorongo, where Samuel was arrested. In his house, several valuables identified as those of his victims were recovered.
Tulikuwa na uoga, hatukuwa tunajua mwenye alimuua Jerry ni nini anafuata, ama kama ametosheka.
Ama amefanya hivyo akiwa peke yake, na huyo msichana mwingine hata alikuwa peke yake, huyo Rosemary. Sasa zinaonekana ni kitu anafanyanga. Mimi siwezi nikamsemehea hata kidogo.
Police took him into custody and presented him in court on a miscellaneous application, where it was ordered he be detained for 14 days to conclude investigation. The puzzling murders of Helen and Rosemary is a grim reminder of the dangers that several other young girls are exposed to in the very same society meant to protect them. Franklin Wala, Citizen TV, at Gituamba, Gatundu North.
Tragic story right there. The Easter holiday turned tragic for a family after their 6-year-old son died in a swimming pool at the Sun and Sand Hotel in Kikambala, Kilifi County. The family claims one of the hotel staff requested for the child to join other kids for swimming pool games, only for the child to drown minutes later. And as Francis Mtalaki now reports, police have launched investigations with 4 hotel staff members arrested and released on police bond.
The family of 6-year-old Dylan Waruiru is yet to come to terms
with the death of their son who drowned at Sun and Sand Hotel, Kikambala, Kilifi County. Dylan's body was found at this swimming pool at the hotel. According to the family, a hotel staff member asked for the child to participate in Easter celebrations at the pool with other children. The mother claims that she initially refused, but after assurances from the staff, she allowed Dylan to join the rest of the children, only for her to be informed that her son had died in the pool minutes later.
The lady who came to pick my kid, she said that she had already finished entertaining the kids and he asked them to come back. My question is, why didn't she bring them back to me? The way he picked the baby, why didn't she bring him back to me?
They have not even marked the pool. There is nothing to show the difference between a baby pool and an adult's pool. It's just total confusion. No one cares. Not even staff are passing around there to check on what the babies are doing.
The family is blaming the hotel management for negligence. 4 hotel employees were arrested and later released on police bond as investigations continue.
This is not just an incident that can just be brushed off because it is pure negligence. And the justice should come right from the top management to the very little lady, the one that actually neglected and caused the entire incident.
There are no lifeguards. There is no one to attend the babies at the pool. It's like they don't feel the value of children. It's like you just come, pay, go home. We will not take care of your children. It does not concern us having your children around us, which is so bad because we are paying the pool. We paid for our babies to come and enjoy, only to be given a baby who is dead.
DCI are handling that case. So by yesterday tulikuwa na mpaka jioni walikuwa naye. Ile watu waliachiliwa on bond.
Yes.
Wale watu wafanyikazi ya hiyo hoteli.
The hotel management have declined to comment on the incident despite having promised to address the issue on Tuesday. Francis Mtalaki, Citizen TV, Kilifi County.
Yet another sad story of human suffering, and we can only condole with the family and pray that there'll be investigations to ensure what exactly happened. We take a short break here, but remember when we come back, we have stories in business and sports, and later we'll be talking about the legacy of Pope Francis, who died yesterday at the age of 88. Stay tuned.
Coming up, government to cede its shareholding at Postal Corporation of Kenya as it opens its doors to private sector investment.
In business, the government is in the final stages of its plan to cede shareholding of the Postal Corporation of Kenya. This is according to the Postmaster General, John Tonui, who says the move is aimed at encouraging the private sector to inject more capital into Posta, which will allow the company to diversify its operations to meet the changing needs of its customers. He argues that although Posta remains profitable, its profitability is now in jeopardy, as Jimmy Mbogo now reports.
The Postal Corporation of Kenya is set to receive over 51 million shillings under the Post for Health initiative, an initiative of the Universal Postal Union aimed at helping postal administration across the globe. According to Kenya's Postmaster General, John Tonui, the funds, which are a grant through the government of Japan, will be channeled towards the purchasing of refrigerated motor vehicles for last-mile delivery. According to Tonui, this is part of the Postal Corporation's strategic plan to pivot towards other businesses as they seek to generate more revenue.
We are looking at 3 business units that we really want to diversify, and that is the courier part of our business and also the financial services, so that we remain with the core business of operation, that is postal boxes and everything else.
The less than optimal performance of the African Postal must change. I think change is a constant. In this particular, we must turn around our public postal utilities by reimaging, as the DG said earlier, their business models and strategies from the current letter post orientation, diversification of service offerings, digital transformation, and entry into a lucrative e-commerce market.
At the same time, the postmaster has hinted at the last stages of the approval process that will see the government ceding a significant part of its shareholding at the Postal Corporation to allow private sector players to invest.
As it is today, Posta is registering significant growth in terms of revenue. We have witnessed an increase of about 11% as compared to last year performance. So most likely, looking at the investment that we are looking forward to, we expect some growth in terms of our revenues.
The sector players under the Universal Postal Union have called for a review of the current regulation, arguing that there is need to update the framework governing postal operations on the continent.
It's our responsibility to deliver progressive regulatory framework. To achieve the aspirations of the Postal Vision 2030, we require an approach to regulation that addresses the key challenges facing the postal sector in our region.
With an ever-changing consumer behavior and advances in technology, postal sector players have been urged to rethink their business model to ensure sustainability and continuity of the sector. Jimmy Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
The International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics has unveiled its Africa strategy for 2025 to 2030, targeting a transformative shift in dryland agriculture across the continent. The strategy is designed to tackle food insecurity, climate challenges and economic barriers facing smallholder farmers in dryland regions. The new strategy is anchored on 7 key focus areas, including the development of innovative seed systems, the integration of digital agriculture technologies, climate-smart solutions, resilient crop varieties, and inclusive market models. It also emphasizes capacity building and policy support to ensure sustainable agricultural development.
Drylands are not only thirsty, not only they need more water, but they are also hungry. They need more nutrients. They need more organic carbon. But because of climate change, because of global warming, because of degradation of soil, water and air, drylands are becoming more and more degraded.
We are very engaged with smallholder farmers. As you've even seen during our event today, we had our colleagues coming from here in Kenya to talk about the impact that has already been in place on their farms and using new varieties and doing the work that's going on. We have a close relationship because we have research centers in these locations across Africa. It makes sure then that we can connect not only to those farmers, but to the National Agricultural Research and Extension Services.
And African startups using artificial intelligence to solve local problems are set to benefit from Google's newly opened 2025 Startup Accelerator Africa program. The 3-month initiative offers early-stage ventures up to $350,000 in Google Cloud credits, expert mentorship, and access to global investors and partners, equipping them to grow quickly and scale globally. To qualify, startups must have a live product, at least one African founder, and a clear commitment to responsible AI. Since 2018, the program has supported 140 startups across 17 countries, helping them raise over $300 million and create more than 3,000 jobs. In sports, the Kenya team to Hockey Junior Africa Cup in Namibia got a major boost in their quest to advance to the semi-finals when they edged out Zambia 2-1 at the David Roscoe Hockey Stadium in Windhoek, Namibia. Zambia took an early first-half lead before Kenya came back to score twice in the second half. Kenya had started with the tournament with a 4-4 draw against Egypt before losing 5-3 to hosts Namibia. After the win against Zambia, Kenya will now face South Africa. On the women's side, Kenya drew 1-1 with Zambia today in their third match of the tournament. Kenya lost 3-0 to Namibia in the first game, drew 0-0 with Uganda before losing 4-0 to South Africa. The tournament that started on the 18th of April will conclude on the 25th of April.
Front foot of that, gives it on the baseline. Is he going to use it? Oh, that's a stroke. Brilliant stuff.
Potential goal. Great way to start the third chaka
Brilliant stuff from Ashunde Charles, captain of the Kenyan team. Clinical about their chances, and they just started the half off with some brilliance.
Champions, Frederick, the man injecting. Oh! That was a great take from the Kenyan. That is Matthias making sure that he earns themselves a point. Kenya 2 and Zambia 1.
The Kenya Academy of Sports has concluded a one-week intensive training program for trainers across the country in a bid to strengthen the development of sports talent among young athletes in Kenya. The training in Nyeri targeted teachers from 11 counties in the central and upper eastern regions, equipping them with the necessary skills to nurture budding talents at the grassroots level. The program by the Kenya Academy of Sports, together with the sports federations, targeted teachers in primary schools, junior secondary and senior secondary schools. The sports disciplines include football, rugby, hockey, athletics and unified sports under the Special Olympics program. The trainees were certified by the respective federations after the one-week training.
We want to make sure that our teachers, right from the primary school level, are qualified in different sports so that they can give us a product at later ages, a product that is well refined, so that we can also contribute in making sure that our teams, especially the junior and the youth teams, are performing better at national and international and global levels.
The national under-20 football team, the Rising Stars, have officially started training in Egypt as they prepare for the opening match of the AFCON under-20 tournament on the 1st of May. The team arrived in Egypt on Monday to begin their 10-day camp ahead of the tournament. The team has already gone through 2 training sessions on Monday night and on Tuesday. After the arrival of Captain Amos Wanjala a few days ago, the squad is now almost complete and can focus on the final preparations. Only one player is yet to arrive. They face a baptism of fire in the first match against Morocco on Labor Day. Coach Salim Babu says all 26 players have an equal chance of playing, and he will use as many players as possible in their first friendly match against Ghana on Thursday.
Despite coming here, having a different climate, change of weather, change of place, change of environment, I think it's good for us, preparation, to have a good preparation with the team, to bond, to have a good gel, so that when the competitions are ready, and then we also need to make sure we are also ready for the competition. So I think the mood is 100% positive.
The Gor Mahia Executive Committee will hold a crucial meeting on Wednesday with the technical bench to iron out differences that threaten to break the team in the home stretch of the FKF Premier League. The rift in the coaching department was laid bare on Saturday when the suspended coach Mihich walked out of the stadium before the end of the match against Sofapaka. Chairman Ambrose Racher had to go for the team's training in Thika to hold a meeting with the playing unit and the technical bench. Racher says they are aware of the rift in the coaching department, with tension building up each week. Gor Mahia drew 1-0 with Sofapaka on Saturday, conceding a late equalizer in stoppage time. A section of fans called on the executive to fire assistant coach Zedekia Otieno, who was in charge during that match, with Coach Mihich serving a one-match suspension.
I am here, first of all, to talk to the players, to give them assurance that we are going to address all these issues that appear to be arising from some friction on the bench. So I have already addressed both the bench and the players together.
We discussed today about those things with the technical bench, with the players, and we go tomorrow again, new training. Yeah, if we forget everything, we are strong, we believe in ourselves, and I believe we will reach everything what we want.
And finally, Al Ittihad moved 6 points clear at the top of the Saudi Pro League after coming from behind to beat Al Ittifaq 3-2 As title rivals Al Hilal were held to a 2-2 draw by Al Shabab on Monday. Al Ittihad bounced back from losing 2-0 to Al Fateh in their previous match to move up to 68 points with 5 games remaining.
The goal has been given. Al Ettifaq lead, and Al Ittihad once again have their problems. It's very deep. Benzema, and it's turned in. The equaliser from Danilo, and they weren't behind for very long. Oh, now it's been given away cheaply. Benzema, the chance to end his difficult recent run, and he's done it. A real gift for Karim Benzema. But when you need a goal, Al-Khatib, but it's quickly won back, and here is Diaby. Awar with a great chance. And what a key goal that could be in the title race. Osim Awar. And there is clear daylight between Al Ittihad and Al Ettifaq. Medran again. The delivery's decent. And Al Ettifaq are back in the game. Wijnaldum once again. Doesn't pick out anybody. It's a goal kick, and that could be the end of
Now, Manchester City is playing Aston Villa. They've just equalized it 1-1. But more importantly, we have a conversation about the legacy of Pope Francis, and the gentlemen are back here on set. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. You can also share your feedback. Or how will you remember Pope Francis at Citizen TV Kenya? Sam Gituku, the hashtag to use is Citizen Explainer. Or you can tweet us, or rather text us at 22422.